Well, hey folks, this is Ben Yessel. I had to get out of the house for a bit. I'm gonna hopefully, this will be a combination of hopefully nice surroundings. My camera's a little bit shaky, sorry. So I'm still using my Android as my main video device for YouTube videos. One of these days it'll change. No, I had to get out of the house. I had to. I have to do some walking around. I've been inside for too much. It's not too cold out like it's been quite some time. And there's not much traffic. Had my dinner. Phone's charged up a little bit. So here I am. You're going to hear a little bit of ranty stuff in this video. But I think I'm going to try to say what I have to say in such a way that it doesn't anger you in a way, or you're not angry at me certainly, or it's not upsetting, but maybe it's going to be strengthening. I would rather have the strengthening for you guys. Well, I don't want to have you guys upset. You know, it's true that with all YouTube things, it's not like people we know in real life. It's not like I know you guys especially well, but some of you guys I think I know a little better. As much as YouTube can allow these things, as much as you can actually come to know someone better here and there on YouTube. So I'm going to jump right into this, how my feelings about COVID-19 and about Governor Inslee right now in Washington State, and about just other things as they come. And you know, again, I might probably walk around for quite a bit more tonight. So I'm probably make another phone call to a buddy of mine. So I got to save some juice for that. So I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, but it might not be especially long. But I need to say some things. And actually, yeah, I'll say some things. Okay. So first off, yeah. In my life, in general, I'm very familiar with rules and laws and morality. As you guys know, I'm Mormon. I'm LDS. And we're taught these commandments and things from birth, and that's my whole worldview. Now, I totally understand why many people have different feelings about this stuff. Indoctrination. Some people think it's indoctrination. Some people think it's child abuse to expect certain things from people that our church adheres to, or at least we're taught to adhere to. That's besides the point. But what I'm trying to say is I'm very, very familiar with things like parental strictness when you're younger, and just rules and regulations and laws and all stuff to limit your behavior, or all these things. And that's just another subject for another time. But again, what I'm trying to say is some of what my train of thought is, what I've said about, has to do with this issue, this topic of rules and laws and regulations, things that many of us are getting a little bit sick and tired of because they're hard to deal with. So myself, because I'm an introvert, because I retreat to my imagination so much, my parents said I was always very easy to work with, more or less, when I was younger, because it was no big deal for me to, in fact, I often craved time to myself. It was no big deal when I needed to buckle down and work hard at homework, or I needed to, retire to bed early. All these other teens, especially, a lot of folks want to spend time with other people, want to party and socialize, and I was never like that. So my parents said I was easier to raise that way. Well, okay. Many people aren't like me, though. Many people are having probably a much harder time with this whole situation than I am, even as an adult. So it's no exaggeration that when I heard that all this stuff we're gonna be, what, in lockdown, inside our homes, quarantined pretty much until May 4th. Folks, people are gonna riot. People are going to go nuts. There's something called cabin fever. Cabin fever is when you're locked away in a cabin or house for a long, long time. You can't get out. You're just stuck there for whatever reason, or you're very limited. Sometimes you talk about cabin fever in a more loose way, like, oh man, I'm just getting cabin fever because I just need to get out. What if you can't get out? What if it comes to a point where we can't go for walks like this right now? People are already having a very hard time not socializing in large groups. Some people, extroverts especially. I understand that. And it may seem like it's easier for me, but we all need human companionship. We all need exercise. We all need stuff that is increasingly harder to seem like we can do. So this is what really burns me up. When the governor of our state says he has a moral obligation, a moral one, to enact these things, even though he's very thoughtful. I'm not saying Inslee's a bad man yet. I don't think he is. He's only governor, and that Illuminati train of thought is really more reserved for national government, but whatever, that's a different subject. So I know it's already getting darker and chillier. Amazing how these things can change in just a few minutes. So it's not, it's when he's, so I was watching TV with my landlord just a little bit ago. And yeah, he said he had a moral obligation to do what he did. Do you know, like, it wasn't that I disagreed with him. But what does Governor Inslee, what does he know about morality? What does he know about morality? Was he trying to preach to me? Was he trying to preach to the citizens, people of Washington State, about morality? About right and wrong? Was he trying to defend his actions in a moral sense? Because legal things, laws, are connected with morality. Rules and regulations. It's part of the same whole deal, folks. George Carlin knew that they were for breaking, rules are for breaking, but as his little stand-up went. But we have laws to have order in society and keep people from killing each other, and we have their additional laws and morals that religions have to govern private behavior as well as public behavior, and the two are very connected. You can't separate them. We talk about separation of church and state all the time, but ultimately there is no separation. If you think long and hard enough about it, there is no separation, and where there is no separation, it has to do with actual real truth and morality, not all the confusion we have still about religion these days, and all the different opinions and whatever else and cultures. Real morality, real truth that has to do with morality. That is the connection. And also, I might add, ultimately, a true religion, which I believe is my church, but that's a different subject. But it's all connected. It's inseparably connected. And if you try to separate the two, all you're going to get ultimately is just meaningless laws, which is why so many of us want to break laws. Because sometimes you wonder if there's no morality behind them. And honestly, there are laws in effect right now that actually do have no real basis in morality. Again, it's a different subject, and it's touching on all these things. But inevitably this does. And we're going to have discussions with this for I don't know how long. So the thing that really bothered me, and the reason, again, I am holding back still, when a leader, when a political leader, or not just a political leader, when the president of a company or anybody in a position of leadership, and I do mean anyone. Now, if you submit to a church authority, and that we're talking about morality here, you still have the option of not being in that church. This is a somewhat different area. We submit to church leaders because we believe them. Oh, it's raining. I'm sorry, folks. I might have to cut this video. I'll still say what I need to say, but I might have to go in a little bit early. The church thing is a tad different, but I understand, there's been a lot of compulsion regarding religion in the past. That's for darn sure. But when it comes to government leaders inferring that they are in the right morally and that their citizens are somehow inferior morally, or they're hinting at that. They could hint at that. And this also goes for anybody in any position of leadership at all whatsoever. Anybody who makes a moral statement like that, or a statement about the superiority of their position, needs to be extremely, extremely careful when they go there. Now, political leaders can make laws, but when they talk about morality and right and wrong, and it's right to do this, and it's wrong to do this, that's another thing, as in, it actually is morally wrong to do this or that. And this is what some of the people on the left criticize about the right. I completely understand. If you do not believe somebody is a moral leader, if you do not already have that degree of trust in somebody that you can follow them. And in Governor Inslee, he may be a good man. I don't know him personally. But I never in my entire life actually said to myself, I would follow that man in terms of what he says is right and wrong. When anyone, any political leader says something like that, in a manner that seems to infer that they are morally superior to someone else, I have a really, really hard time with that, coming from a conservative. Because guess what? Conservatives and liberals doesn't really matter that much compared to people that believe that we should just go along with what government always says, versus people that say, you know what? We need to stand up to this tyranny. Now, I'm not saying that all the things that are happening in here are reasons to riot or reasons to rebel against government. But what I am saying is, this man, Governor Inslee, is not God. He cannot determine for himself. He cannot say that he is better than anyone else morally in regard to him being. Wow, you think you guys understand what I'm saying? You can always think to yourself, I'm doing well morally. But when a person starts saying things, when they start saying things that hint at the inferiority of citizens, that we need to submit to authority, when you start hearing that stuff, it's a yellow flag, folks. It's cautionary. I'm saying there is reason to be suspicious. There is reason to be very, very suspicious. Regarding my own faith, I submit to the leaders of my church because I believe them to be led by God. And I fully understand why many people don't go to church, because they don't believe that anybody presently speaks for God or can speak for God. I fully understand that. And many people get very irritated about this sort of thing. I understand that very much as well. So this is why I'm mentioning this, is that, I think you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say here. I don't want to hear anything more out of Governor Inslee's mouth about morality. Nothing. I never accepted him as a moral leader, ever. And I'm not saying he's a bad man. I'm just saying he's only the governor. The governor can create laws he thinks are fit to protect and help his people, but he is a servant, just like prophets are servants. Why are prophets servants? They're servants of God, and they don't domineer over anyone else. They only ask or command, whatever you want to say. They can only call people to repent and prepare themselves spiritually. That's all they can do. A governor can only make laws, but he derives his power from the people. And even in communist systems and totalitarian systems and dictatorships and whatever else, they have basically taken over power by force. But they still, any government ultimately derives their power from the people they govern. Because if a government were not to have any people in that country that they governed, they would be powerless. Be no one to be in the military. Guns and weapons are useless and they will never do their job if nobody's there to push the button to set them off. You see what I'm saying? Governments only have power insofar as they can deceive and domineer and whatever else and be tyrannical. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to just mind my own business here. There are limits. There are limits. I do not believe that Governor Inslee has crossed the boundary yet, but I have good reason to believe that considering how long this lockdown will be in effect, we may see some seriously bad mojo in the future. You cannot expect someone to be homebound for months on end and not to be issues. You cannot expect that. It is contrary to human nature to expect people just to be at home unless they are monks. And I lean that way myself. As I mentioned, I'm an introvert. And I spend quite a fair bit of time doing imaginative things at home. But I'm starting to feel it now, too. It's only been a few weeks. I guess it's been since mid-March. So I can only imagine how irritated people are when they have all these expenses and they had a huge income, or they had this social life and now they have to change. I can only imagine how they must feel. And I don't even say they don't even, it's going to be crazy insane for them to change their lives in the way they need to change them. And my hunch is, no matter how bad or tough this situation is, we're going to have things in the near future that'll be far worse than this. Far worse. So my ultimate point I'm trying to make here is, how seriously should we take our political leaders, including even my governor, my state, when they claim to say things in a moral sense? Now, if they say things, if what they're saying agrees with my morality, we obviously have no problems. But if what they say contradicts my morality some way, shape, or form, if I do not agree with them, I am legally obligated, until my church says otherwise, to submit to their legal authority to rule. Otherwise, of course, I can always do what I want to do anyway. But we believe in the 12th article of faith, my church, which says, yeah, we're subject to kings, presidents, rulers, magistrates, whatever, and obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law, upholding the law. It is right to support your leaders, so long as your leaders are not being tyrants. And for the longest time, I've heard about the Illuminati, these rumors about the Illuminati, all these rumors about whoever in power, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. There are reasons why many of us have a increasingly hard time supporting our leaders. Why am I morally opposed to anything that the governor said? It's really more his attitude. If the governor was more respectful toward people and tried to work toward solutions regarding what people just need to have in their lives so they don't go bat blink crazy, maybe if I got that impression, and maybe if there were places where, maybe if there was more research done to combat the virus, or maybe there was more masks. Maybe if we had more masks. Masks is a huge thing. If we had a lot more masks, we could be a lot more social. We could be a lot more out there doing our regular thing. We could work. We wouldn't have so much issues with this virus. But why do we have so few masks? I haven't even had access to any mask. I haven't seen it sold in any store. Why? I'm starting to ask these questions. Why? Why am I feeling I'm being preached to by the governor? Shouldn't it be my bishop? Shouldn't it be the prophet of my church, as I believe them to be led by God? Shouldn't it be those individuals? My own dad? Shouldn't it be those people that I know in my heart are righteous and good, who I am following, rather than some person that has been elected to lead our state, but in matters of politics? Because we still do believe in separation of church and state until we're led by God Himself or Jesus Christ. Or this is always everything religious is always my opinions, right? You guys are you're still free to believe what you want to believe. I'm just saying what I believe. But what I'm trying to also say is, no, I only have so much tolerance for Governor Inslee inferring anything about anyone that's in any way, shape, or form remotely inferior to him. This is why people have an issue with Trump. You know, it was liberals, it was Democrats, and conservatives so often back him up. But when Trump has this attitude, even conservatives, so many of us say, especially members of my church, something's really wrong with that guy. Something's really wrong with someone when they don't treat someone with respect. Something is very wrong with the president of a company when they don't treat their workers with respect. They often go unpunished. I know this personally from my own life. I know this better than many other people. And if anyone has ever been wrongfully terminated from their job, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Wrongfully terminated, or even everything was okay legally. There's so many other situations where someone can be taken advantage of by their employer. I don't give a crap. I don't give a crap what Governor Inslee says in terms of his morals regarding being a governor. I don't know him personally. I can only assume he's a good person. But when he says something about he was morally obligated to do whatever, that's fine. But the question is, does it agree with my morals? Was he trying to defend his own actions because people are criticizing him? If he was, maybe he should have gone about it a little bit different way. Maybe he should have said something like, I realize that I'm only elected to this position by you guys. I'm only trying to do what I think will be beneficial for Washingtonians, or will help keep everybody safe. I understand that there's other opinions, there's other points of view, and I'm not going to say that mine is superior. I'm just going to say we're trying to do the best we can at the moment. If Governor Inslee were to be more humble and honest with everybody, if the federal government would be much more forthcoming about why we don't have masks, then maybe I'd be in a different attitude. Maybe the feeling would be a little bit less suspicious toward governor. Maybe, just maybe, if I had been in a better position financially for quite some time because of this crazy self-employment tax we're all subjected to if we're self-employed, especially if we have small businesses, especially all kinds of other situations we have. Maybe if I was in a better position financially, maybe if I felt like the government was trying to help me rather than hinder me, maybe I would see things much differently. But I don't. I don't see things. This is how I really feel, folks. This is 100% genuine, honest Ben Yessel. I'm so sick and tired of any tyrant, whether they're in government, business, wherever, even religion. I'm fully open to the possibility, or how can I put this? If someone wants to even attack my leaders of my church and say they're tyrants, I understand where that person's coming from. I do. It kind of depends on the nature of what they're saying. And everybody's different, and everybody's feelings are a little different. And, you should always try to hear where they're coming from. It's easy to get defensive about this stuff, and I try not to. I really do. I've known too many people in my life. I've known way too many other people in my life, culturally, personality-wise, whatever, to always say that it's okay to jump to your guns and be defensive. Because it isn't. So I'm also willing to say, or listening to someone who says, Governor Inslee is a good man, and he only wants what's good for our citizens, and whatever. And I'm still willing to hear someone out. But I cannot and will not agree to a notion that we must all have the same morality as a governor. And believe me, yeah, maybe I should be a million times as critical of President Trump. Some people are thinking, it says Trump is a conservative or is a Republican and Inslee is a Democrat. And that's why you're critical of Inslee. Well, you may have, that person may have a shred of truth to them. That kind of thing. There may be a point there that person is making, but I've asked myself that same question: is that why I'm feeling the way I am? And my answer to that is, the national government is beyond most of us in terms of what we feel like we really know about a person. And anyone who assumes they know what's going on in the national government, well, we just guess. State government, we feel like sometimes we know a little bit better what's going on. And so maybe we have more knowledge or scrutiny over our state government. And maybe that's the feeling. Just maybe. And just maybe that's the reason why I am probably a little bit more apt to be critiquey of my governor rather than the president. Because when it comes to the president, I have literally no clue what's going on sometimes. And I can also say that hardly anybody else does either. People think they know what's going on in national government. They don't. Nobody does. Our federal, the U.S. government is saturated with secrecy. The Russian government, Putin knows this better than almost anyone. We have spies upon spies upon spies upon spies upon spies. It's endless. We have classified documents, and we're like mountains of classified documents. We have a government that's just bigger than many countries in terms of the numbers of people employed by our government. It's ridiculous. It never changes. Trump was supposed to clean the swamp. Oh, the economy's doing better. Well, whoop-de-doo. How much better off are you compared to when Trump was elected? Some of us might be a little bit better off. The economy was better. You can't always help when this stuff happens. Okay, I really do have to wrap up, folks. My battery's almost dead. So I'm not happy. I'm feeling cabin fever. And trying to be resilient here about all this stuff. And I, more than anything else, will not be told or talked to by a political leader in a manner where I am sensing that he is trying to put himself up at a pedestal. And yeah, I did have that impression. And I darn well don't want to have that anymore. But the only way I can get rid of that impression The only way. Because I probably won't ever have a chance to get to know the guy myself. Is if I start hearing more respect and more being done by the government, both governments, state and federal, to help things get back to normal. Alright, catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.